Okay.
Okay.
We also have, I think, Reza.
Okay, we are live on the streaming service. Hi everybody, welcome to this session with me. This is 𝗵𝗿𝗲𝗃. I have with me Saurabh Nathany and we have 𝗃𝗍. Did I pronounce his name correctly?
𝗃𝗍𝗃𝗍.
𝗃𝗍𝗃𝗃. Okay, and we are going to be having a conversation today on networking 2.0. Okay, and it's an area that Saurabh has been particularly interested in, networking 2.0 for lawyers and law students. And we will discuss a little about how to network abroad if you're pursuing a foreign LLM, how to get those opportunities offshore. And if you are an Indian lawyer, this is going to be incredibly useful for you. So Saurabh, I'm going to sort of turn over to you to share to give your a brief introduction and
Sure.
then lay out an outline for the webinar as we've been discussing. Okay. And
Sure.
I'm really excited to have everybody here. Yeah, Saurabh.
Absolutely. Hi everyone. Pardon me. I'm just gonna share the meeting ID with the other attendee who's supposed to be speaking on one slide. That's 𝗃𝗍𝗃𝗃. Sorry about this. Apparently he did not have the meeting ID. I apologize for that.
Okay, so Saurabh, can we begin now?
Yes. Yeah, we can begin now.
Okay. Hi,
Okay,
Reza.
great. Hi all, everybody. This is great to have you guys over here. Saurabh Nathany. I'll just quickly share with you my background. I graduated from India in 2005, worked in India for about 7 years, then came to the US, did my LLM from Northwestern in Chicago. Then we got jobs in Dallas, Texas, and that's how we landed in Texas. And thankfully, we were eligible to take the Texas bar exam. So that's what also obviously hinging on the job front, because law firms, obviously, you don't get hired unless you're licensed. How and why networking 2.0? Generally, real quick brief on this is over the past few years, while having been in the US, I just have noticed, or just general realization, how in India we don't really have, or at least we're not as encouraged in India to go out and exchange our business cards or attend networking events and all of that, and basically work on our own brand and work on our own self to get eyeballs on our profile, so that we are the ones who people seek instead of we seeking out. So it's like the other way around that happens over here, or at least people strive to do that over here. Of course, it's a work in progress, and it takes time for you to build up to a certain level where you can, you're kind of a networker, or you're somebody who's known in the community in such a way that people come to you, and that takes time. Obviously, everything that's good, that
So I
takes
have a
time.
question to ask you, Saurabh. Sorry for intervening, but the question
Sure.
is this, okay? That why? So I understand that this is an approach which is slightly different from the conventional approach. A lot of people are now starting to think of it in India, and you are saying that this is a very regular mainstream kind of thing that people do. They're used to meeting others, senior lawyers, and building and cultivating relationships with them abroad. And you're saying that this is something that's going to be increasingly important in today's post-COVID time, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So where it stems from, at least in the US generally, regardless of the COVID situation, is that in the US, the way placements happen is law firms come on campus to the law schools, and then they interview the interns for, the students for internships. And once they do that, that's when, that's basically, there are networking events where other students also kind of mingle with partners and all. So that networking kind of culture is already there at right from the law school level. And from that's where students are familiarized with what this whole about, this whole thing about networking is, with law firms and lawyers and associates and all those things. And so that's where, once they get out of law school and get into the job circuit, that's where, they obviously hone that skill set even further, because you have happy hours, firm happy hours. There are business groups which have happy hours where law firms go and try to get business from. So that's where also, the same thing about that I'd mentioned to you, that the same skills that you require for job, from a job perspective, to be something that people seek out to you, is the same skills that you need to have when you're out, out there, business development.
The same skills you need for getting clients, the skills for getting clients and the skills for getting jobs in a law firm are the same, is what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they have a lot of overlap.
Right.
Is seeing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, and did you use, to what extent did you use this for getting your own job in Texas?
Yeah, it's a funny story actually, but it's very much, when I look back, it's very much hinged on networking. I currently work at 𝗵𝗿𝗍𝗃 Law, which is a law firm based in California, and we do startup law. The way I got this job was, I was in a certain phase of my career where I was pursuing, or taking the GMAT exam, and was trying to get back into the MBA. And then once I decided that, okay, MBA is not for me, I want to get back into the legal world, then that's where I started looking out for opportunities. Now, I had 3 or 4 people I could reach out to, but I did not have to end up reaching out to all of them. I just reached out to 1 or 2 of them, and they were not lawyers, and they were all just within my business community and CPAs, for example. And they suggested I connect with somebody called 𝗍𝗿𝗲𝗏 Advani, and Anil was looking out for somebody in Texas. And that's how I connected with him. He liked my profile, and it all happened in a matter of 30 days. Like, from the time I decided that, okay, no more MBA, back into the legal world, till the time I actually got the position, it was under 30 days. And I'm not saying that it's gonna be the same thing for everyone. It can be, a little longer, a little shorter. But the networking part definitely helped me.
I feel there was something very unique for you when you were undertaking networking, which is that you were not directly speaking to a lawyer, but I think you at some point you said that you decided not to do an MBA and continue with, careers outside law, but you were actually networking with a business person who knew a lawyer and who could connect you with the opportunity. So I think one clue is right there, that you need not restrict your networking activities with lawyers, even if you want a job. You want a job at a law firm X, you don't necessarily have to network with people in that law firm right there. It could be with somebody who's a client of that law firm and who really, knows you or recommends you.
Yeah, and not just client, Abhyuday, a lot of times there are referrals. So law firms get business from where? They get business from word of mouth from the existing clients, referrals from their existing clients who've, passed on the referrals to others. They also get clients from CAs, for example, accountants, professionals, financial professionals, valuations. Now in India, of course, you have insolvency professionals. So there are various levels of professional individuals from whom business is generated. So I would highly encourage all lawyers and law students to think out of the box, look at CAs, CFAs, CSs. All those guys are potential referrals for you, not just from a job perspective, but even from a business development standpoint. Somebody may not be happy with their existing lawyer, they want to hire a new lawyer, they're happy with your profile. I mean, it's not, right now everybody's moving up, from a generation standpoint. The older generation is kind of, tapering off, and the newer generation is coming in. So the newer generation doesn't want to, just loyalty doesn't, stick a whole lot with everyone. It's the quality of work that counts more.
Got it. All right, so let's proceed.
Yeah.
What's the next part?
Sure. So I'll just share my screen so that we can start with the slide deck that I have.
Sure. And you want to invite Reza to introduce himself?
Yeah, Reza. Reza, are you there? I believe he's there.
He's there.
Yeah. Hi, Reza. You mind introducing yourself real quick so we can start with the slideshow?
Hey. Hi, everyone. My name is Reza Yassi. I'm also an attorney, and I'm the founder of Attorney, where we connect law firms and law students through assignment-based virtual internships. I'll tell you guys a little bit more about the company, but I'll give the floor back.
Okay, great. So I'm going to just share the screen. Oh, host.
I'll just allow you to share 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah, please go ahead. You want me to? Oh, sorry, you can do it.
I'm good.
Perfect.
All right, so this is the screen. This is just
so with networking, let's also have our focus on tapping into job opportunities abroad through this, like tangibly looking at what can be done. I think Attorney, for example, is a great initiative in that regard. And it'll be really good to know from the experience, your own experiences, and people that how they used networking to get jobs. Because we see a lot of people say that you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, but we don't get to hear a lot of stories all the time that this is how this person made it. So I'll be most interested in knowing about these kind of inputs and examples.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. I can do that as well. Okay, so real quick, starting about, this is me, and that's Reza. He's an attorney. He's a founder of Attorney, connects students and law firms for internships. And that's, I think, a very uniquely positioned, entity or a company or a service that he provides to both the sides, where law, obviously law students who don't have internships or don't have the benefit of summer internships, that's something that they can reach out to Attorney, and hopefully if they qualify based on the requirements of the law firm and whatnot, they can actually get an internship, virtual internship, and that's a potential employer right there. Generally talking about the LLM program, for those who are not aware, the program in the US usually is 9 to 12 months long. It's usually, the eligibility is a JD equivalent, which is the LLB in India. The purpose.
I think most people in this session are aware about and really interested in knowing about what all they can do. I think they would know about the duration and stuff.
Sure.
They've been finding ways to get there. Yeah, I'm sure you can revisit it. That's fine.
Yeah, sure. So purpose is, again, just special. Some different people have different purposes. They specialize in a certain practice area, gain work experience, settle abroad, gain softer skills, all that. And cost is something that I'd just like to take a minute to talk about. You should definitely consider when you're looking out for an LLM. Obviously, from an India standpoint, a 1 year of an LLM is a huge cost given the dollar and India rupee, the currency value difference. Assuming you can afford an LLM and you don't have to look at a bank loan, that's great. But then a lot of us who don't have that benefit or privilege, somebody who wants to go take a loan and go, a few practical things to consider are these type of economic situation that there is right now. So for example, right now there's a COVID situation where there's an economic sort of a slowdown. You may want to consider deferring your LLM program by 1 year. I remember back in 2008 when there was a financial crisis, the global one, a lot of people took that year as a way of going to the LLM program, not from a perspective of getting a good job out of it, because there weren't many jobs out there, but from a perspective where they could take a break from their current job and then enhance their skill set and then come out when the economy was better to get.
So I have a quick question. Do you think that people can start to network online sitting in India with in US and defer their LLM program by a year, and when they go to, and assuming things improve after a year, which is very likely, they can then visit the US and make 10x more use, for example, of an LLM, because they'd have actually done some initial networking, made some headway with things, and they could maybe use that 1 year of time that they spend over there even more effectively. Do you think that's possible? That's
absolutely that's totally possible. In fact, that it's highly encouraged for us to do that, because there are certain challenges that I'll just talk about in the next slide. To overcome those challenges, thinking ahead, I have an entire slide on pre-LLM, what to do before the LLM program. So let's just talk about that in a minute. Challenges for the Indian lawyers post LLM. One is lack of formal internship program. So generally, what happens is in the U.S. law schools, JDs, the JD program, which is the LLB program equivalent, they have what is called a summer internship program, where law firms actually come on campus and they interview students, and from there they pick students for their internship programs for the forthcoming summer. So they basically, August, September is when they come for internship interviews. And then the next April, May, June, July, that's when those summer interns are interning those law firms. So that set program internship program is there for the JDs, but because we have just 9 months, there isn't really a situation for the LLM internships to happen. So that's where somebody like an attorney who, Reza, can come in and kind of help you on that side. Then there's a limited time to make connections. Again, internships you can get not just by having a formal setup, but also through networking. And the fact of the matter is that you have just 9 months, which is very short for you to be able to connect with a lot of people, as well as at the same time focus on your studies and workload. So that's another issue. The third is India is a closed legal market. What I mean is that a lot of when LLMs, when foreign lawyers come to the US for the foreign international LLM program, they will realize that at least from India perspective, that a lot of lawyers from Mexico, Brazil, or Korea, Japan, or Europe, a lot of these countries have foreign law firm branch offices in those home countries where they can go and join. So there is some incentive for US law firms to hire those kind of lawyers who they can train and then send back to the home country's branch office. But India being a closed legal market, foreign law firms aren't allowed, and that's another big challenge for us. The fourth one is no language skills to showcase.
Basically, hiring is centralized to an extent in US, and it could be for specific jurisdictions. So you could be hired in US and then sent back to your home country, or maybe in a Hong Kong or Singapore office. But that's not possible necessarily for an Indian lawyer, because you won't have an Indian office of the firm. So that's a problem. So unless they have an India desk, and that desk may not be very big all the time, so that you would be limited to working on that.
Right. So let's talk about the India desk aspect. It totally depends from law firm to law firm. So I know a law firm which has an India desk in Dallas, for example. So there is this law firm, Smith and Reed, if I'm not mistaken. Reed and Smith. The partner is Bobby Majumdar, and he is somebody who does a lot of US India work. And something that he focuses on is getting business from India and getting, India, US companies trying to do business in India. So cross-border on both sides is what he tries to do. So India desk can be actually anywhere. It can be in a larger law firm setup. It can be something that's based in Hong Kong or London or Singapore, Beijing, or also for that matter, or US itself. So that's something that's really a research that you have to do and get down. There isn't really a straight answer. I think it's driven more by a business requirement, wherever there's more requirement of an India desk office. But regardless of that, I think there are firms that do a lot of India work. You just have to kind of scout out and research really real hard on that, and make sure that you get to the right profile that you want to do, the type of work that you want to do, wherever you want to do that. And so being a closed market, yes, that's one issue, that India desks can't be actually located in India, unfortunately. So that's that.
Saurabh, a quick question, if you don't mind me intervening.
Yeah.
Simran Upadhyay, she's participating in this webinar, asked, what if we join a summer internship and then join for an LLM? So I said that getting the internship itself is the challenge, because you're not there. And but what's the process like? Is it actually possible to get the internship sitting in India?
I would not, I would say, Reza, do you mind jumping in and talking about the internship program, the summer internship program, how it works from the JD standpoint?
Yeah.
So from the JD standpoint, we usually look to work with 2Ls and 3Ls who have already had a year of experience working at a law firm. That's part of our quality control measures. For an LLM, it would, I think it'd be a little tough, because it's hard for me to say, I know this student is qualified when they have no relevant experience. You see what I'm saying? So that is a challenge. But if you can find an internship before you go into your LLM, especially one in the US, if you're doing it virtually, if you can network and even get an unpaid one, then that's going to bring your odds up, definitely.
So is it realistic and feasible to get unpaid internships in the US, which you can do virtually from India?
Is it possible? I believe it's possible. Is it easy? I don't think it's easy. You know, I think there's, especially right now, there's so many people who want internships, whether they're paid or free, that you're competing with people who have experience here, people who have roots here, people who have connections here. So it's not going to be easy, no. Doesn't mean it's not impossible. And I'll talk about later what I look for to really boost your resume, to maybe get those opportunities. But in short, it's possible, but it's not easy.
Right.
Yeah.
So going through the LLM route is the better way to take the cycle.
I would say if you can afford to, you should go for the JD program, because the JD program has a structured internship program built in.
You're saying do the JD plus the LLM?
No, just the JD. So a lot of students that I have come across in Northwestern were LLBs like myself from India, but who have come for the JD program, which is just like doing another LLB in the US.
Isn't that like 3 years and 3 or 4 years and that much more expensive than the LLM?
It is 3 years, yes. An accelerated JD can be 2 years. And yes, it is expensive. So yeah, that's completely, subjective. If you can afford that, for sure. I mean, if that's what you want to do.
But is it twice? Like if it's 2 years, then are you paying twice the cost of an LLM, more or less?
No, actually, it's 3 years of the program. So LLM, if it costs 50K in a certain law school, a JD costs 150.
Okay.
Literally.
So it is 3x.
Yeah, it is 3 times. Okay, literally. Okay, so getting back on the slide, so language skills is another challenge I was talking about, is that our business communication language in India is English, and therefore we don't have any specific language skills to bring on board, which is like Chinese, Japanese, or Spanish, or Korean. So those issues are there, cultural issues and visa issues, which of course your career center will guide you more on. But to overcome these challenges, there are several things that you can do. I don't want to discourage you from the LLM program. It's a great way to make great connections, lifelong connections, and I'm still enjoying some of those connections and having made professional as well as personal connections. So that's something that I'm going to talk about on how to overcome some of these challenges. Now, thinking ahead of the curve, what this slide basically talks about is when to apply, in the sense, not obviously when in the year, but what part of your career should you think about applying if you want to apply for an LLM. Personal experience, I believe you would do most justice to the LLM program if you have already had 2 to 4 years of work experience. Why at least 2 years of work experience? Because you would be able to at least tell which area of law, or at least whether the current area of law that you're already practicing in, if that's something that you want to further your career into. If not, then that's a good time for you to switch and practice area and explore something else that piques your interest. But definitely, if you are going for an LLM, you should know which practice area, because since we have only 9 months and only 2 semesters, we have quite a few electives that we can select some subjects from. And there are a lot of practical based courses, such as M&A as a separate subject altogether, venture capital law altogether as a separate subject or a course. So those things, if you are practice driven, and if that's something that you're already practicing in, it makes a lot of sense to take those electives. But if you haven't done anything, you wouldn't really be knowing what to pick at the LLM level. Sure, I mean, you can pick from something sounds exotic, but whether that's something that's going to help you in your furthering your career or not, that's something that you have to ask yourself. So work experience is definitely something I would highly recommend. Where to apply? Target law schools. And ภิith, if you don't mind, can you just take a tab of the questions, and whenever
I'll take care of it.
Is relevant, and just hop in and ask me, and I'll answer.
I'll do that. In this segment, it'll be good if you can just give us a brief overview of scholarships.
Sure. Okay,
in the course.
that where to apply? Target law schools in larger international cities. From India's perspective, we really, when we think about US, California, New York are the two places that come to mind. But keep in mind that in the US, there are 50 states, and out of 50 states, there are several states that have at least 2 or 3 large cities where you can actually apply for a law program and actually make a really good career out of it. So, for example, I did not know that the Cleveland, Ohio, which is a big city in Cleveland in Ohio State, has a really good bunch of law firms over there. Like, for example, Jones Day, which is a big global law firm, is actually headquartered in Cleveland. In Texas, Austin is one city which is huge it's like a startup hotbed. And so there's a ton of incubators and accelerators. So some of the biggest law firms have their offices there, and they don't even have a single office in Dallas. For example, Wilson Sonsini, it's a California-based law firm. They don't have an office in Dallas. And if I want to apply, I'll have to actually go to Austin to apply. Given I'm a startup lawyer, and they are also specialized in startups. So different cities have different law firms as well. So make sure that you do research, and don't just consider the standard Ivy League law schools and Harvard, Stanford, and all those, and the larger cities just being New York and California. There's Chicago. There's, in general, other states that you can consider. You may also want to consider, obviously, based on where your relatives are based, if that's something that's a lucrative state and a city to have a career, because that way you may be able to save some cost of living, or even if not that way, but having some connection in the city always helps, because sometimes they may be able to make you local, connections and introductions to, local lawyers or whosoever, some business folks out there. Alternative jurisdictions like Canada, Singapore, Hong Kong, Australia, some of those things you can explore, of course, depending on, which country, whatever is going on. There are some disturbances in Hong Kong right now. So obviously, besides that, you can consider other places as well. Where to apply? Now, marketing yourself. Okay, briefly on scholarships, since you mentioned before I move on. On the scholarship front, yes, when we look at LLM programs, we always think about how to save costs and save money, because naturally, the amount of cost that an LLM, whatever an LLM costs, it's not really possible to get a bank loan from India unless you put a collateral to the bank. Because it literally runs in lakhs and lakhs of rupees. It's not just a question of 1 or 2 lakhs. Up to, I believe, 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs, you may still get a bank loan, student bank loan, on an unsecuritized basis, which means it's like an unsecured debt. But if you want to go beyond that, banks ask for collateral. I know that because I tried to approach banks for that, and they asked for collateral. So scholarships. There are scholarships out there in law schools which are country specific, which are generally, if not country specific, there are merit-based scholarships. And then there is what is called as the Dean's Grants. And there are certain grants that are given out to international law students as well, which are called grants, which don't have to be repaid. It's not like a loan that the law school is giving you. So don't be discouraged by law schools if they tell you upfront upon you asking them that there aren't any scholarships, or specific scholarships for India-based law students, or beyond 5 scholarships, we don't have any others for the general category. So what I say is apply for all the law schools that you have selected, and try and ask for what else is available. Is there grants available? Because I remember the year when I graduated out of Northwestern, there was some alumni who's, alumni 20, 30 years ago, who gifted it was an alumni donation, who gifted to Northwestern about $100 million. And that $100 million was actually just a gift by an alumni to the law school to be used for various purposes, including scholarships. So actually, the Indian students who came after us actually had a lot of grants given from the law school for free, $5,000 to $10,000, $12,000 of grants. So if the tuition was $40,000, they just had to pay $30,000. So those things also happen frequently, time and again. There's a lot of culture of loyalty towards your alma mater over here, the law school that you've gone to. So a lot of alumni do that, and it's a very cultural thing. We don't obviously see that as much in India, but that's very prevalent over here. So be on the lookout for that. It's always a good idea to just seek something. Yeah, Reza.
Piggyback off what you're talking about is some of the grants have been month, right? Albert A. Day grants, right?
We can't hear
Especially
it.
if they're geared toward.
Can you switch off your video so that maybe the audio can sail through, because there's a bandwidth issue. It seems it's at your end.
Yeah, it's patchy, Reza.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So what I was saying is, a lot of these grants have a name behind it, the Albert A. Davis grant, and especially if they're targeted or geared towards, like people from India. That's a name you want to remember. That's a name you want to seek out, and that's a name you want to reach out to. And you're not going to ask for a scholarship, but you're going to ask for guidance, for mentorship, for coffee. That can really take your career a long way, because it's someone who's shown a willingness to help, not just through, I'll help you out by telling you information. It's someone who's put their money where their mouth is. So that's a great resource. If you could reach them and network with that person, it's huge.
Right. Are you talking about information interviews with potential law firm associates, or?
No, I'm talking about the people who are actually giving the grants. So a lot of them have behind it.
Oh yeah, grants. Correct.
I'm not sure.
Can you explain the strategy, Saurabh?
Yeah. I believe what Reza is saying is that those people who give grants and basically the alums who give those donations, it's a good idea to reach out to them for asking advice on how to go about, and how to get ahead of the curve and try to network with people who do they know that they can give us, help us reach out to gain further advice on what's going on in the current legal market. What that does is it just puts you into in front of more and more people. And while sending out resumes and in an e-blast to 100 law firms can sure make your resume reach out, but nobody knows you face to face. You may be an entirely different person on a face-to-face basis, and you may be extremely lucrative. Somebody maybe really wanted to have you on their team based on one meeting, whereas your resume may not speak as much. So the key is, what Reza is trying to say, is to get in front of people, and important people, and people who can actually further your outreach to the right people in the right direction. So that's that, and I completely agree with that. And actually, that's what happened with me when I was looking out for a job after after I quit my MBA quest for MBA. Was I started networking, and a CPA who I knew somebody who was looking out for somebody in Texas. That's how I got this position where I am today. So anyway, so getting on to the marketing aspect real quick. What I mean by marketing is just obviously marketing your profile in a way that you can showcase your expertise, who you are, what you do. Blogs and articles are obviously some of the most common things. But other than that, once you are applying for the LLM program, try to think about reaching out to existing international LLMs who are in the law schools that you are applying to. Ask them for their experience, how their experience has been during the LLM, and ask for application advice on how did they get their jobs, or if they haven't, what is that they're doing differently to be able to get in front of employers. The latest scoop around the law school, what's going on, those things definitely help a lot. Something that you will of course come to know once you are in the LLM program is you'll want to buy their books, because buying new books is also always a lot more expensive than buying secondhand books. So that's something that you'll come across. And existing LLM students who are outgoing, basically graduating, they will be able to hand you over those books, and that's something that will be of immense value to you once you're already in the program, because every dollar that you're trying to save will mean a lot. Coming on to the LinkedIn tips, there are a ton of LinkedIn tips that I can talk about, and there are about overall five points that I want to talk about on LinkedIn. Now we're actually coming into the visual aspect of your marketing. Reaching out is one thing, but what stays online stays forever, and of course, unless you change it. So something that you can work on, making sure that somebody, if somebody talks to you, he or she would always want to go on your LinkedIn and check out what exactly you do, where you work, where you're based, all those. Having a good LinkedIn profile helps a lot. Things like headshot. Always, one thing I've been told is always have a professional image, or at least a formal front-facing, picture with a bright background. I see a lot of law students as well as lawyers don't have that. They, some of them are, having a headshot which is like more in a, casual situation or casual setting. Somebody is in a party or restaurant or something. Make sure that you have a good profile picture. It doesn't have to be you don't have to spend money professionally getting a headshot done. Just a good picture with your camera, phone camera is also good enough, as long as it's just, everybody has a passport size photograph that they take out. One idea is you can get the digital image file out of your passport size photographer, and get that and put it on LinkedIn till you actually have a professionally shot picture. Headline on LinkedIn, you should, and these are, I think I would recommend everybody, if whoever wants to take notes, these are something that you can take notes on, which I mentioned on the LinkedIn post. Headshot is one, headline is another. We all have headlines, in the sense, right after our name in the LinkedIn, there's a headline which says what you do, and basically it's a headline of what you do. A lot of people put their headline as
Do you want to show this through screen share?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
You want to share your own profile or something?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'll do. What I have been told by recruiters is to always have a headline which says exactly what you do, instead of saying what degree you carry, or, hang on. This is my screen, my profile on LinkedIn. So this right here is my name, Saurabh Nathany. Right underneath that is the headline, which says startup lawyer in Texas and Silicon Valley. When recruiters are looking out for candidates to place in law firms, they type out certain keywords that they're looking for in profiles. Those keywords, actually, you will pop up in those searches based on those keywords if your headline has some of those keywords. So make sure that if you're looking out for a corporate lawyer job, so you make sure you put over here corporate law or corporate lawyer. If you're an immigration lawyer or a patent and a trademark lawyer, make sure you write trademark lawyer. You may want to write your degree if you want to, JD, LLM, LLB, whatnot, BSL,
Dual
LLB.
qualified or something like
But
that.
but make sure you also put in what kind of lawyer, what exactly is your profile, like you see in your job description. Coming down further in the about me section, this is a good place where you objectively write what your snapshot is, like a basic write up for who you are, what you do exactly. So I've written 3 paragraphs, one paragraph about my education, one paragraph about what I currently do, and a second paragraph talks about my existing work experience. And then it's a very good idea to put your email down and contact information, although it's there in my contact information link, even if I click it. But it's definitely advisable to.
And please do not hesitate to build public profiles. Okay.
Absolutely.
You've got to be there in the public.
Absolutely. Learn from ЛawSikho, the guys. They've obviously been doing this for years. But we generally, lawyers from India, I don't know as much about cultural thing, but I know from, cultural standpoint, coming from India, we always are afraid about, being there in the public domain, trying to put out profile.
Saurabh, there's a question, okay? What if I'm a student? 𝗰𝗿𝗲𝗍 𝗵𝗿 has asked, and this happens a lot of times. Students say student looking out for opportunities, but they do not say what they are specializing in. So what's your take on that? What can a student say that makes them stand out?
I think candidate for a corporate law position, something like that, you can always put in something that's that hits out to recruiters. So here's the thing: there is a dual there's a that it's a opinion that goes both ways. When we were reaching out to recruiters told us that why would we look at your profile because you're a fresh out of law school. The thing is that law firms would pay recruiters to get experienced lateral hires and not as much freshers out of law school. But at the same time, there have been some other recruiters who said that while that's the case, but there is always a need for fresh lawyers who don't always pop up in a law school search for a lot of law firms. So it cuts both ways. But the idea, of course, is to have something that you write over there, which kind of piques somebody else's interest in sort of a search. So something around law student in pursuing corporate law, something like that. Put in your courses that you do, or that you're trying to take diploma courses in some of those interest-based areas, intellectual property, for example, or family law, things like those, criminal law.
Okay, any other parts of the profile that you want to highlight for them?
Yes.
I think that's what an all-star profile is, but still it's important that you fill in the many places where you can add work, descriptions and all of that.
Absolutely. You see this associate attorney, I'll just click on edit. I think that's when it'll pop up. Yes. So I'm just taking you through. Oops, I should not be the one who doesn't have anything over here.
That's fine. You can still explain that, this is what can be there. Like it's there for the other experiences that you have.
Well, yeah, okay, now I can see. So now you see if you...
yeah, and Pranav says you can upload a copy of your resume in your LinkedIn summary.
Yeah. See my work experience at the 𝗯𝗿𝗲𝗿 law firm. I've just written 3 points, which is basically... This summarizes what I did at this law firm, and basically I'm trying to showcase my expertise and what my work experience was working kind of project.
I really like the first 2 points on advising the clients. You've mentioned the sector and what they've done, like capital raising efforts, and how by private placement of securities prepared their private placement memorandum. So now if a recruiting partner wants to ask you a question, it's very easy for them to ask you, do you know this? How do you do that? What would you do if this happens? And you can actually walk them through the process. And it's such an opener for an interview where you can actually explain that you know what you did.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the idea, to not blow your trumpet, at the same time to subtly tell what exactly you've done and what you're...
Like you didn't write US Securities Act 1933. Right? You didn't say NASDAQ listing.
And I don't need, because that's obvious. And I mean, you obviously don't want to show off too much as well. And as I said, you have to be subtle about things.
Yeah, very nice.
You may have researched on a number of laws, but you don't have to write every law. Like, for example, one of the most common laws we all the time look up is DGCL, Delaware General Corporate Law. So in the US, every state has its own Companies Act and LLC law. So it's very state specific over here. So you don't have to go about mentioning those, but a general description about what you've done. These obviously, like you said, open up discussion pointers with the potential employer.
Okay, so let's move to the next point. Do you want to continue LinkedIn, or we move to the next point? We wrap this
up. Real quick on a couple other points in your LinkedIn, because I know that LinkedIn profile is really important for a lot of people, and I know that it's a huge marketing place, marketing thing for you, for everyone actually. So I've been through the headline, the work experience, headshot. You must have seen the headshot. This is a headshot that my ex-employer, their photographer, clicked. Before this, what I had was what Northwestern had clicked. So it was, again, another professionally done picture. You can, of course, along the career, get some of those free things. But when you don't have a free situation, then, of course, like a passport size I mentioned is a very basic thing you can start off with.
But don't pose like you pose in a passport. Don't be dead emotionally, okay? Put a big smile and radiate some energy from your face if you do that.
No, absolutely.
Not the Indian passport photo where you have to be in like a statue mode and quiet, okay?
Yeah, no, that's true. these recommendations, I want to talk real quick about recommendations. When I was talking to a recruiter, I was told that whenever you're in a job or leaving a job, make sure those who you're good in touch with, and who you have a good rapport with, make sure that you get their recommendations, because recommendations go a long way for potential employers. Now, if you can get a recommendation from your boss, obviously your partner, obviously that'll be awesome. But if not, then at least some peers like associates definitely is recommended. Nothing better than a client giving you a recommendation. Nothing better than giving a client. That's like the best recommendation. And I think you can, if you worked long and hard with a certain client, there's no harm, and you shouldn't be shy about asking for a recommendation. So this is one recommendation that I recently got. Kaushik Banerjee, co-founder, CEO, 𝗵𝗿𝗻𝗿. This was a very good recommendation what he gave me, and it was not something that I asked. He just generally, felt like giving it. I've been working for him for 2 years now, close to 2 years.
Are you saying you didn't ask and you got it? Like you didn't even ask?
I did not ask. Absolutely, I did not ask. He just randomly, put it out there, and I was amazed.
But guys, the simple way to get a recommendation is think of how you've contributed to someone. Think of people you've contributed to. Call them and ask them, and follow up. Don't feel embarrassed. It's like how people feel embarrassed to ask for their money back, and then they feel embarrassed to follow up. It's like that sometimes with recommendations. People don't want to positively ask, and if they ask, then they don't follow up. Don't do that. Okay, just like
absolutely
politely, nicely, and get that recommendation.
Right. Again, Syed Chaudhary, he was another ex associate, so basically a work colleague with me in PwC, in an ex employer company, who gave me a good reco. Nathaniel Conley, he was another law student, not a law student, sorry, a business student at Northwestern with me. And so that gives me another point, that make sure that if you've worked on assignments with some of your law school students, ask for recommendations for them, and they'll be happy to write. And you can obviously also write a reco back, and obviously try to make sure that it's objective, not like you do me a favor, I'll do you a favor, but more like you genuinely feel the need for putting a reco out there for someone, that help somebody. And that's a genuine approach to things. You can start off with that. Somebody may ask, where do I get a reco from? Where do I get my first reco from? Law school is not a bad place to start with. And yeah, Anurag Sundar, another person who was a business guy on the business front in one of the, so essentially a client. So this is my recommendations aspect. One thing, another pointer on LinkedIn is that whenever you send out connection requests to people, especially from an potential employment perspective, please add a one-liner note at least. This is fine. I've obviously, I'm joining a webinar here, and tons of people, of course, have added me on LinkedIn, and I've completely, accepted everyone. Most of the times employers don't fully appreciate, not all employers appreciate if you just randomly send a connection request. Just a one line saying, may I please connect? I would be really happy if you could connect with me, and I would really like to keep in touch with you, or something around, I really found your profile interesting, I would really like to stay in touch with you and follow you, or something like that. Be something, something very simple, but make sure that you add one line to your connection request. It's really polite that way, and you will always stand out.
Just a quick, especially when you're reaching out to people who have a lot of followers, LinkedIn caps your followers at like 30,000. So once you're getting up there and you're trying to connect with people who are decision makers and who are important, they have to start picking and choosing who they accept and who they don't, right? So make yourself stand out. A random friend request without any context is not going to do you much good.
There are, of course, in LinkedIn, there are what is called lions, LinkedIn Open Networkers. They are the only exceptions, and they actually write on their headline that they are an LION dots. And so other than those, and those are really business folks who are trying to be facilitators and networkers. So other than those, most of the people, they really expect, well, one line would be highly appreciated by anyone. So that's that's just a suggestion out there. I've been told as well. Coming back onto the slide deck.
Okay, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
We can the slide deck there, Varada Balachandran has asked that given the COVID situation, a lot of universities like those in the UK are planning to start online classes from October onwards. And so many of the facilities like campus libraries and all of that may be shut. So in this scenario, is it a good idea to sort of explore this? Is it going to be worth the money if you don't have physical classes and you don't get to travel to the country? If you've especially already got an offer from a university such as Oxford, would it be worth it in your opinion? I mean, I know you've not experienced that kind of an LLM yourself, but still, what do you think?
Yeah. No, in fact, we have been discussing in different networking events and groups and business people around the value that students are eventually going to be perceiving in a physical setup versus a virtual setup. For example, a lot of students who are currently in these LLM programs or even business MBA programs who are now back in India, they're actually just wondering, why am I paying $50,000 at a Harvard for an MBA at Harvard when I'm sitting at home taking online classes? So those questions are, coming up, and you guys obviously are a little ahead because you haven't gone into the LLM program. And so this is one of the prime examples where you can think about deferring an LLM program by 1 year and thinking about that. Now that's just on the timing aspect. More on the critical aspect of whether I should go or not. That's obviously, I think, the underlying question. And to that, I would say one thing that I've seen over here in the US is the quality of education or law education that you would get from a top tier, from a Harvard Stanford versus a local Dallas, which is a Dallas Law School, which is really renowned, and SMU, which is Southern Methodist University. It's not a whole lot of a difference, not a huge difference. There is some difference. It just depends on what kind of doors that you want to open. So an LLM program, while it also, of course, gets you a degree and it gets you a lot of softer skills, finesse in dealing with, folks internationally and cross-border cultures, it also opens certain doors. For example, if you're an Harvard alumni, you obviously have access to the global alumni groups. So whichever country you go in, you have alumni bases out there. That's a huge networking connection or ability to connect with just people you don't know. Because you have a certain alumni connection, you are able to break into certain groups.
Okay.
Sorry,
and
is somebody saying something?
No.
Or was it Reza?
No, Reza wasn't. There's someone else. So Pranav has asked the question to Reza: what criteria do international law firms keep in mind while awarding a virtual internship to international law student? Is this like the virtual internship, which is like a regular internship performed virtually, or is it a pre-designed, internship where you're repeating some tasks for everybody who gets it, like an inside Sherpa one? So, and are these the same as their standards for hiring summer associates? Yeah, your voice is good.
So I'm going to go into the internships and how they work and what I look for and what the employers look for. Saurabh is done with his presentation. So yeah, I'll just save it for then. And I'll answer all those questions.
Okay.
So actually, yeah, his slide is just a couple of slides later. He was actually having the exact same points that he wants to talk about. Top 20, just real quick now. I'll just burn through my slides because it's already almost an hour. Thinking ahead of the curve, top 20 list. Before getting into the LLM program, just a general pointer. Make sure you start researching for the law firms that you intend applying to. Make sure that you go for big law firms as well as small to medium-sized law firms, because you should apply across the board and across different spectrums so that you get the best out of each, and wherever there can be a potential opportunity. So starting with a top 20 list is not a bad place to start. Thinking ahead during the LLM program. During the LLM program, a few pointers I have real quick is make sure you have your business cards printed. Now, business cards, when you're in an LLM program, you have those situations where law schools provide you with business cards which have just your name, law school, name of the degree program that you're attending, and your email address. Make sure that you have all those in place when you're doing your LLM. And even if you're in your LLB degree right now, you should have those in your bag whenever you are going out to meet people, wherever you may be going out to. Resume, keep that always updated, and make sure Once you're in the LLM program, make sure that your resume is a one-pager resume, because that's the international standard. And
One page, huh?
acceptable. Yes, one
Indian
pager.
law
And
schools
you
have
can
two
do a
pages.
one pager. Sorry?
Indian law schools have a 2-page
Right. I used
culture.
to have a 4-page resume, honestly.
Got it.
But you can condense a lot of stuff. You will not realize how easily you can condense stuff. We just have a mindset of writing a long essay, and we just have a mindset that the longer you write the answer, the more points you'll get. That's the mindset that we've grown up with, in India. But that's not the case. You can condense it and you can still see a lot. Um, Top 20 list I've already spoken about. Make sure you have your account. You can have an accountability partner when you're on your LLM program, because there are lots of other LLM students doing the same thing. Whether you catch, get hold of an Indian law student, or get hold of another, country-based lawyer, it's a good way to be accountable for each other, and maybe on a weekend basis update your top 20 law firm list, and start firing out resumes to different employers. Track and follow. Make sure that you follow up with wherever you apply to, whichever law firm you apply to. Make sure that you follow up with them whenever you've sent them the resume, because the more the follow up you'll do on a frequent basis, like I think it's given that you should follow up within 7 to 10 days. 10 to 14 days is the max time that you kind of follow up within, but 7 to 10 days is a decent time to follow up with wherever you've applied to. um, Networking events. There are tons of networking events that law students can take the benefit of when they are in the US or wherever they may be. Actually, there are Asian American bar associations, and that's basically there in almost every city in the US. You should attend those events where other Asian American students can connect, or lawyers can connect you with partners in their law firms, or some other people who could be a potential hire for you. City-based bar associations. So, for example, I'm in Dallas. There's a Dallas Bar Association. New York City has a New York Bar Association. So different city-based bar associations are also a good place to go and kind of share your business cards with, and get yourself recognized. And ethnic groups. There are ethnic groups I want to talk about real quick. Ethnic groups are basically, for example, I've been in Dallas for about 6 years. I've spoken at various different ethnic group based business groups. So for example, there's this Metroplex Tamil Sangam, which is a Tamil based group. It's a business group where you have other business folks as well, but it's basically, organized, has been started by, Tamil people, I think, ethnic origin. And there's this TANA. TANA is Telugu Association of North America, which is basically, folks coming from Telangana, and basically from a linguistic perspective, that's the ethnic group that they have. So different parts of India also, based on linguistic diversity, have ethnic groups. It's not a bad idea to actually go out to those groups and network over there, because there's always a familiarity or a connection out there that, belong to the same ethnic group. So that's something that you could think about. The New York and California job fairs obviously are there that your law school will tell you about. And that's something that you can obviously showcase your expertise in. And that's actually where LLMs are sought after from employers. So in-house legal positions as well as law firm positions are there in some of those places. Law school events, hosting law firms. You will see that your law school, wherever you've gone to do LLM, the law school, because of the JD internship program, there will be lots of law firms coming on campus, and being, talking on a panel, for example, or just on a happy hour basis, visiting the law school in the evenings. It's a good time to go out there and connect and exchange business cards, and get yourself known out there about what you do, and how you do, what kind of lawyer, where you are from, all that. And when you are in that setting, I'll talk about networking tips. Networking tips I have a few pointers for is, make sure you prepare, learn, and practice your 15 to 30-second spiel. It should be basically your elevator pitch. It should be not more than 20 seconds, because that's about, max that you should talk about as an introduction when you're introducing yourself. If prompted further, then you can look at narrating your little more longer, lengthier work experience, but obviously not more than a minute or two. And you should obviously shift the conversation to the partner or whoever you're talking to. Giver versus the taker mindset. Be a facilitator. Some of these things are really about giving more than taking. So for example, what I remember doing is when I was in a certain networking event, and there were people of German origin. So there were partners of law firms who were from Germany, actually, who were visiting the US, and they came on campus very briefly. And so I knew a few law students within my LLM program who were Austrian as well as German. So I was happy to connect them with those guys and actually take business cards and send it to them. And they were able to connect with them. It's a different matter that it didn't really turn out that they got hired by that law firm, but it was a good way to kind of give somebody out and kind of see where I could connect. I could be a facilitator or connector to somebody else. So think about those from that standpoint as well. The more you give, the more you get kind of a mindset. It may or may not work, but it's not a bad idea to have that, adopt that mindset. It's a good idea, actually. Thank you notes. Whenever you do meet somebody at a law firm event or law school event rather, make sure that you write a thank you email the next day within 24 to 48 hours max, that it was a really great meeting you. I thank you for meeting me, and it was one, I would like to keep in touch with you, for example. And that's a good place where you can go online on LinkedIn and connect with them. So whenever next you share a blog article or a post or something like that, they also get to see that. And that's like a one touch point right there that they got on your on your radar. Others are there. There's networking with adjunct professors.
Okay, quick questions. I wanted to interrupt and ask if it's fine.
Yeah, please.
Is there a language test necessary for applying in America, or any proof of Indian law pursued in English is sufficient?
We got a TOEFL waiver when we were applying to LLM at Northwestern.
Okay.
Based on my conversation with the admission officer, they will call you on the phone. At least that's what worked for me. They wanted to have a 15-minute phone conversation based on which they would judge whether you're proficient in English or not.
Got it. And one more question is that which country is better, UK or US, for LLM opportunities and has a better working environment for young lawyers? I'm not sure it's possible to be very specific or objective about this.
It really depends what your objective is, really. I mean, it's a very obviously very open-ended question. US,
can we say which country has more opportunities for Indian lawyers? We can't even say
definitely that. US, definitely US, simply because US is a larger country, and it has a lot more states where you can go and apply at law schools. There are many more law schools over here than UK, obviously. The cost will obviously be pretty much similar whether it's UK or US, but I think one larger difference is that potential employers are a lot more in US than UK.
Got it. So that's
having said that, there are visa issues obviously that you have to also cross over. So that's that.
Okay. So
yeah, I think Reza, why don't you hop in, and because it's already an hour, so I'd rather you hop in and hop out, and then I can just carry on with the other couple of slides.
Okay, sounds good. So I guess I'll start by telling you guys what my company does, how it works, and then within that, I'll tell you what I look for and what I think employers look for, and I'll answer any questions, I guess. So Attorney connects law firms and law students through assignment-based virtual internships. It is the Upwork model, the UpCounsel model, the freelancer.com model, right? So it's a gig work platform, but with a lot more hands-on monitoring of the talent on the platform. So the way it works is you'd have to sign up on my website, and you would have to send me your resume, writing sample, transcript. That's when I get to work and I start reviewing this stuff. And initially, I can just eliminate a bunch of the applicants. We have certain standards that we look for. We look for, if you're a top 30 in your class, if you're part of a journal, if you are on, moot court, mock trial, or any other things like that. And that's all something that you can partake in as an LLM. Those are all opportunities that you can check those boxes as you're an LLM. So when it comes to the resume, what I'm really looking for is one, that your grammar is proper. That's huge, right? It's the first thing that's going to be a red flag. But the second thing, what I'm looking for is your relevant experience. So a lot of people complain, like, it's so hard to get relevant experience. How can I get relevant experience if I can't get an internship? And the way around that is you create relevant experience for yourself. How do you do that? You read books on the topics that you're interested in, on the field of law that you want to go into. You listen to podcasts. You seek people out. You write blog posts. You do whatever you can. If you want to be a sports attorney, you start reading sports contracts, CBAs, and then you put that on your resume. All right, because then you're showing to the employer, like, hey, this is not just I want a job, I just want money, I need it. This is showing I'm passionate about this, and it's going to completely boost the odds of you getting that job or getting that internship in the field that you're interested in. So it's easy to say, hey, I don't have relevant experience, how can I get the job in that field that I want? It's another thing to go after it and really do the outside things that will make you more likely to get that internship. Right? So then the second thing I'm looking for is your transcript. And again, get good grades. Obviously, that's important. Legal writing is really huge because it's telling me that you understand the basics of what your job will be. Basically, any legal job that you do, you're going to need to be able to write. So I'm looking for, again, red flags in your writing. And I'm looking for brevity, conciseness, and that you're writing to the proper audience. Every type of law has different audiences. And if you are writing to a founder, right, as a startup attorney, you're going to be writing in a different way than you are if you're writing to the Supreme Court. So whether your writing is tailored to the audience is huge, especially when you're putting out your writing sample. Then it's your transcript. Then I'm looking for, that you're getting good grades, but you're also getting good grades in the classes that you say you want to pursue a career in. If you want to go into startup law, I want to see that you're taking business organizations and other business related courses so that you can vouch for your pursuit of that career. With that being said, then I follow up with an interview, 15 to 20 minutes, quick interview. And that's really when I want to see that you're competent and that you can talk about your resume and that everything you put on your resume is accurate. So for me personally, you should be able to talk about everything that's on your resume. So if you put something down from 6 years ago and you can barely remember it, go back and review some of the work that you did so that, everything on your resume you can speak about. It's really important because if I ask you a question and you can't go back and you can't talk about it, it's a red flag to me. One thing you can do to help your chances is when you go to an in-person resume, for me, it's usually over the phone or through Skype, but when you go through an in-person resume, bring a note, bring your resume with you and have a copy in front of you. It's better to have to look down and catch your place than blank on something and just completely forget what you were saying or what you were doing, right? So after I've done that, I either allow you on the platform or I don't allow you on the platform. Attorneys go on and they'll post an assignment. And what you'll do is you'll apply to the assignment, right? We do assignment-based internships because, well, I'll get to that later. But when you're applying to these assignments, again, you have to watch your grammar. You have to make sure that you are concise and compelling in your response as to why you want this job. That would be basically my version of a cover letter is you are applying for that job. So the cover letter has to be specific to the job, know what job it is, and talk about how you can perform that job. All right, so once you've applied, we step in and we basically recommend 3 students to the attorney. He chooses the attorney. They get to work. We collect payment. We hold it in escrow. Once the student is done, he submits the work to the attorney. The attorney either approves or disapproves, or he sends it back for more work. We've never had an attorney disapprove of the work, and I think that goes to how heavily we vet our students and make sure that they are of the highest quality and they're capable of doing the work. And that's not only because we look at the grades, but we look at the relevant experience. Have you done this before, and what have you done to prepare yourself? So it all ties back into each other. And then finally, once it's approved, we transfer payment and yada yada. You get the rest of it. So the reason we do assignment-based virtual internships is I think it's more cost effective for law firms to hire paid interns this way. You get to use them when you want them, and you don't have to pay or handle the costs associated with them when you don't, right? Oftentimes when you have a full-time intern, you have to find work for them, and it's a hassle, it's costly, and we kind of take that out of it. Another thing we do is we allow law firms to tap into a talent that they wouldn't otherwise be able to tap into. These, as you can see, these internships are convenient for law students and LLMs because you can do it virtually. You can do it around the clock. You know, you don't have to check in at certain time. You can do it around your coursework. You don't have to worry about travel, right? So we've made internships easy. And by making internships easy, we've attracted more talent, the best of the best, right? Because who doesn't want to get paid from working from home for 20 hours a week while they're still learning the law? That's our big benefit to law firms, right? It sounds like a super sweet deal, and it is. And then on the other hand, it's beneficial to law students as well. Obviously, you're gaining experience, you're getting paid. I mean, not tremendously, but it's still better than nothing, which a lot of people fall into the trap of doing unpaid internships in America, which, you know, that's a whole other story. And networking, you know, you're meeting new people, and you're tapping into different fields of the law. Sometimes, you know, you might think, hey, I want to be a tax attorney. I want to be a tax attorney. I thought I wanted to be a tax attorney. I did a tax attorney internship for about 2 weeks and I hated my life, right? So getting that experience of, all right, I want to learn about, maybe I want to be a startup attorney. Maybe I want to do marijuana law. Maybe I want to talk or do internships about self-driving cars or cryptocurrency. So you have giving these people, like, obviously your classes can do that, but it's really important to know what the job is, because it sounds cool being a cryptocurrency attorney until you're just reading, you know, a bunch of policies that you don't understand. Maybe you're just not interested in it, right? So that's what we bring to the table. But I guess what I'm really looking for is, and this is the most important thing to me, a lot of people say, I don't have enough experience, but then they don't try to gain that experience for themselves. So if you're truly passionate about a specific sector of the law, there is a bunch of ways that you can gain experience without getting an internship. You can write about it, you can blog about it, you can read about it, you can listen to it, you can seek people out who are in the industry, and you could just, hey, can I take you out for coffee? Can we hang out virtually? Can I ask you some questions about X, Y, and Z? And if you're shy about that, then maybe connect with someone who can make an introduction for you. As Saurabh said, you know, LinkedIn is huge. LinkedIn has made networking easy. It's a lot easier to reach out to someone via, you know, a text or LinkedIn and say, hello, I'd like to meet you, than actually physically talking to them in person, right? So take advantage of it, especially in this time where it's, you know, it's the only way to communicate. So you have to take advantage of these opportunities. Let's see what else. And then, you know, have a pitch, as Saurabh said. You don't need to start with, you know, I was born on, and then go through your entire life. You just need to convey the purpose of you wanting this job. Like, why do you want this job? Have that pitch ready. It should be personal, it should be effective, and it should be short, 15 to 30 seconds max. Yeah, always send a follow-up letter, especially for a real, you know, an in-person interview. Craft your follow-up letter and just tweak it. You know, you don't have to come up with a new follow-up letter every time. Just craft one and have someone look at it. Have someone look at everything that you do. Have someone who's smarter than you or that you look up to. Look at your resume, look at your writing sample, look at your transcript. They'll help. Lawyers would love to help law students. I don't know, it's for some reason, maybe we just love to talk a lot, but we love to help law students. Once you get out of law school, it's a little different story because you're all competing. But when you're in law school, people love to help you. So take advantage of that. Network with your professors. They're human, they're just like you, and they will help a lot. And oh, when you go in for an interview, do some background research on who you're interviewing with. Know a little bit about them. Maybe you know what school they went to, what significant achievements, what their specialty is. It's big. It makes the interview more personal, and it's a big benefit. So I know I just put out a lot. So if you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
So it'll be great, Reza, if you can share the link of your platform on the chat box so that people can sign up and apply online. They can go through the filtration process. It's an Indian law student can do this kind of an internship or not. If you're not pursuing a JD, is it possible to do anything with your to sign up or not?
So if you're pursuing an LLM in the United States, you're eligible. Or if you're pursuing a JD in the United States, you're eligible.
Okay. This is a precondition.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you so much, Reza.
Those are pretty good thoughts. Thanks a lot.
Super. Yeah.
Reza. Real quick, through the COVID situation, unemployment, there is some, obviously some level of unemployment, but it's not a showstopper, because I can tell you, I am getting recruiters reach out to me for positions. So there are positions out there available. COVID is not a showstopper. Yes, there is a hiring freeze in a lot of places, but doesn't mean that it's completely stopped. Solo and small law firms, I can share, again, you're already past an hour, and I should basically wrap up.
We can wrap up, yeah.
Yeah, but there are lots of stories out there where, law students, LLMs have gone out and gotten into solo and small law firms, just individually just applying and kind of, breaking through the doors. So that's that. Texas bar, real quick. Yes, foreign lawyers are eligible without a US-based law school LLM. That's there. I think there is a really good a webinar that recently LawSikho had connected, put up opportunities for Indian lawyers in Texas. The last bullet point you'll see that pretty much summarizes everything that's there on this slide. So I'll just pretty much move on to the next slide. That's the last one, my journey. Abhyuday, I think I've briefly touched about my journey. I've worked obviously in India for 7 years, LLM from Northwestern, and then got a job in Dallas, Texas. So the way I got a job in Dallas was that our situation was both my wife and I were lawyers in India, and we both got through Northwestern University, and so she was the one who got a job first in Dallas. So that's what brought us down to Dallas. I started networking with people within her law firm's network, as well as general Dallas-based attorney networking groups. And that's how I got my first job at 𝗯𝗿𝗄𝗏 Law Office, which is a Dallas-based boutique law firm. And from there, obviously, came out other opportunities and other networking groups and events and initiatives. So that's pretty much been, and as I said, my current job, it was totally out of a networking situation where I networked with folks, and somebody actually led me to somebody, and that's how this thing clicked. So that's about my story right there.
Got it. Thank you so much, Saurabh. Thank you, Reza, for being there with us. Thank you, everybody, all the participants.
Thank you very much.
Overshot the time, but I want to hear some feedback from all of you on chat before we close the session in the next 15 to 20 seconds. Please let us know, everybody, you've been very patient asking questions. Did you get answers to your questions? Are you now clearer about LLM, future opportunities to work in the US, how to go about networking, and all of that? Yeah, there are a few more people over there. Go on, sorry.
Yeah. In fact, what I would just suggest is, I'm sure a ton of people have a ton of questions. They can either, send the questions to you and you to me, or reach out to me directly also. I'm open to that. So I'm on LinkedIn. You guys have my profile. So feel free to reach out to me directly as well, or through LawSikho.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir.
Can I just leave off with a quick? Okay, Okay, so I recently had a art lawyer. He's very niche field doing art law. He wanted two interns. We had 4 that I narrowed it down to. 2 of them had really good grades. Like one of them was the #1 student at Hofstra Law, 3.97. Like you couldn't get better than that, right? The other one was a really good student too, 3.8. Then we had a student with a 3.4 and a 3.2. The attorney went with the student who had a 3.4 and a 3.2. Why? because their resumes were all about art law. They had, you know, undergraduate art law interests, volunteered at, you know, exhibits and art houses. So that's, you know, people who have the mindset, it's all about grades, it's all about grades, it's not. If you tailor your resume to a specific niche and you really go after that niche, especially emerging niches right now, especially like emerging niches in India, right? Whatever that may be, if you tailor your resume to something like that, big law firms will be after you like no other. You know, sometimes you do have to get the grades, but if you have both, if you can niche your resume, it's going to do you wonders. That's it.
Got it. Thank you so much. That was a really, really good insight. All right, so we're going to close the session now. Cheers, everybody. If you want to inquire about any of our courses and figure out how you can build a career as an Indian lawyer and acquire specific skills in multiple areas like contracts, technology, IP. There are a lot of international students also studying these areas, or in litigation, or in-house, you know, working as an in-house counsel in companies. Feel free to reach out to our team. You will get all details on 𝗏𝗍𝒀.com. Okay, or you can WhatsApp me on my number 9717301797. Sometimes I'm not very prompt with replies because my WhatsApp is over flooded. So don't hesitate to follow up. And yeah, so thank you for being with us. Cheers, and we'll see you soon again later at a different webinar. Stay tuned.
Thanks
Bye.
a lot, 𝗏𝗍𝒀𝗃. You guys do a wonderful job always. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you, Reza, so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for having me. Have a good one.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.